And at that time, I didn't realize how much money farming can make.
That
Yes.
that there's income involved in that, right? So that shifts how you look at things.
Once I got older, I understood that I wish I had that farm.
Okay.
Yes.
So you think that you would have been a farmer, maybe?
When I was younger, that was dirty work. So a farmer wasn't cool, and getting dirty like that wasn't cool. But this is what I learned in life. And this, they say that many people are not successful because success comes dressed in overalls.
Mm.
And when you think of overalls, a person getting dirty. And in life, yeah, a farmer gets dirty, but there are things in there that could be successful, not just financially, but just in helping community be able to sustain. We can't live without food. So that helped communities sustain. And I'm just now being a little older, I understand sometimes you just have to roll up your sleeve and hands got to get dirty.
Hello, neighbors, and thank you for joining us for another Healthier Neighbors mini grant podcast. We are so excited to be here in front of you, and thank you for taking the time to explore other mini grant ideas with us. As you know, Healthier Neighbors is one of 6 communities funded by Palm Health Foundation in Palm Beach County to address the behavioral health needs of the residents in Riviera Beach and northern West Palm Beach. It is a resident led behavioral health initiative, and we prioritize 3 areas based on what residents said was most important to their behavioral health needs. And our guest today is here to talk about one of those priority areas, which they wrote about for their mini grant and how they won and what they're doing today. So we're really excited to hear from Mr. Oswald Newbold, the executive director of Libra-Life Mentoring Services. And he's joining the podcast today, and he's getting ready to tell us about how he wrote, what he wrote, his connection to this community, and all of that good stuff. And in our opening question, what we've been asking guests is, when did you fall in love with health?
When did I fall in love with health? I would have to say that was a process over time when I just started to learn about the body more, understanding what was going inside of foods that didn't need to be going in our body. It was a process. So just becoming educated over time, I just started to fall in love with health and being eating healthier, exercising more, and not to mention certain things you may eat at 15 years old, 25 is not the same, 35 is not the same. So I just started to fall in love with health, just became educated over time.
Okay, so you say that real easy, right? Real easy. Just I started eating healthy and I started, it's a switch to go from, let me say, like a real good greasy cheeseburger to something that's more lean and a turkey burger. How did you feel making that switch, or what motivated you to make that switch? Because most people don't read the back of labels and see what's in them. So what started motivating you to pay attention to what was happening?
I guess it really, when you say that like that now, my roommates in college was like the first eye opener for me because they had a book on red meat and they was going in hard. And I love beef and I love steak, but I was eating pork at the time. I actually stopped eating pork at the age of 18 years old at
Okay.
that moment. But I still was loving meat. But over time, I started to learn about red meat and how it's processed and how it lasts so long like you say, it's not a switch, it's a process. But over time, sometimes your body doesn't even digest certain things later on that it did when you were younger. So my body was telling me certain things wasn't good for me anymore.
Wow. So I was speaking to another guest about how being in tune with your body, you have to have, certain things that are going on a regular basis that you can even identify when your body says something to you. Because people will say, my body told me, or my body said. So, you have to be really in tune with your body. And we're going to get into, some of the practices that you use to do that, because I'm sure our guests want to hear what it is that you do. Once again, thank you for coming, Oswald. Thank you for being here. Thank you for what you're doing, and thank you for enlightening me on this area of health that we're going to dig a little bit deeper in. My first memory of you was your Healthier Neighbors grant application. And I love that because
Thank you.
what the mini grant has done for me, just if I can speak selfishly, it has really opened my eyes to so many more community assets. So when an application comes in for a name that I've never seen before, I'm like, whoa, who is this? And then, okay, so I need the book for this,
Okay.
right? Because, yeah, I'm still working on it. So you won for youth hydroponic farming and
Hydroponic.
hydroponic. See,
There
thank
we
you.
go.
So we're going to start again. Youth hydroponic farming and mentoring program. So the hydroponic part is what captured me. So can you explain that for me and for others?
Well, hydroponic, essentially hydro, we dealing with water. So the basis of the hydroponic farming is it was to teach the youth how to grow food suspended in water without putting it in soil. There's a lot of different, now it's some natural bacteria and different things that are in soil, but using water, it could be more healthy than some of the toxins that's in the soil these days.
What made you want to connect with youth to do this? Because that wasn't a requirement of the application. You did not have to connect with youth. We didn't make you connect with anyone. You know, you write your application how you wanted to write it, but why youth and why the Riviera Beach Youth Empowerment Center?
Okay, so one thing that made me connect with the youth was because I already deal with the youth, was going inside of the high schools. I done went inside of DJJ talking to youth. I done been to different alternative schools. I've been dealing with youth in not only in Riviera Beach and West Palm Beach, but all throughout Palm Beach County. So it was a no-brainer for me to say, hey, let me give them something they probably never been exposed to. And another reason I chose the youth is because, for one, it could open them up to an industry they didn't know exists, jobs, even healthy living. Back in the days, our grandparents, most of them had some type of vegetable or a little farm, little mini farm right there at the house or next door or in the field next door or something. So we done got away from producing our own food and have become dependent on the stores. And now if we needed to survive on our own, half of us don't even know how to plant something to eat.
Wow. So planting is a part of your upbringing. Can I say that? Or was
Yes.
that something that you introduced to your family?
No, it was introduced to me.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about that introduction. Grandparents, did you have a farm? Did you grow things?
Well, my grandma, I guess you would say my great granddaddy had a big farm out in Jupiter, which it was my grandmother, but she was married to my granddad from before I was born. And he had a big farm out in Jupiter. I mean, rows and rows of crops growing out there through the seasons. I can't keep up with everything. I never worked the farm, but I understood the importance of producing food and how many people came to him for food. And he was actually very successful. And at that time, I didn't realize how much money farming can make.
That
Yes.
that there's income involved in that, right? So that
Eh,
that shifts how you look at things.
Once I got older, I understood that I wish I had that farm.
Okay. So
Yes.
that so you think that you would have been a farmer, maybe.
When I was younger, that was dirty work. So a farmer wasn't cool, and getting dirty like that wasn't cool. But this is what I learned in life. And this, they say that many people are not successful because success comes dressed in overalls.
Mm,
And when you think of overalls, a person getting dirty. And in life, yeah, a farmer gets dirty, but there are things in there that could be successful, not just financially, but just in helping community be able to sustain. We can't live without food. So that helped communities sustain. And I'm just now being a little older, I understand sometimes you just have to roll up your sleeve and hands got to get dirty.
you
Yeah,
talk a lot about growing and
growing.
maturing and
Yeah.
getting older, and it seems like time has a real significance for you.
It does. Well, you have to remember now I'm 49, I'll be 50 years old this year. So I see life differently at 50 versus when I was 15.
Hmm.
So one thing about life, we have lessons learned, and when we have lessons learned, it turns into wisdom. And what good is for me to get wiser, but I keep it to myself. So I have to push it back into the universe. That's how wisdom lives on.
Absolutely, and that certainly lived on in. So for those of you who haven't seen, this is the lookbook. So If you see Oswald looking at me sideways, it's because this is his book, and I'm giving it to you. Here you are,
All right,
Oswald.
thank you.
Here is your
Thank you.
book,
I'm
right?
glad I finally got
Oh
this
my
book.
goodness, right?
Right,
So the what was blocking Oswald from getting that book was just a mere pandemic, just a
right.
global pandemic, right? That he's giving me a hard time about. So we were getting ready to distribute not only those lookbooks to all of our first winners, so all of our 38 projects will receive that book that highlights what they did, and and the project that they did and photos from those projects. And as we move into another mini grant season, can you tell us a little bit about what your mini grant experience was like?
Well, my mini grant experience, the first time I did it, I would say that I didn't know exactly what to do because I had never applied for a grant before. So I asked a few people who may know a little something about applying for grants and what to say. And they was telling me a lot, but they couldn't really give me much. So I just went with where my heart was. I just read the questions, and whatever the questions was, if I felt I had something to offer in that area, I just answered. Just it was organic what I answered.
I love that you said it just came from the heart,
Right.
because those are the applications that you can really feel when you read it, right? And really captures your attention. I know some folks that will say the first time we put the grant out there, and they said, well, I haven't opened it yet because I'm trying to acquire a grant writer.
Mm.
And I said, well, did you open it yet? Did you see the questions? And they said, no, I'm trying to secure a grant writer. And I said, I think if you open it, you might not need one. So how do you feel about just the whole process in writing and opening up your heart to the questions and the entire process? In the end, you had to submit your report on and tell us about it. Your report that you submitted at the end, if you remember.
I can't quite remember the report, but what I would say is this: going through the mini grant process, as once I did open the application, I felt I could do it on my own. So I went through the questions. I answered organically from the heart. When I ran into something, I was like, I know the first time around how it was, there were only so many words we could say.
Mm-hmm.
So we couldn't sit there and put 2 pages worth of stuff. So you had
somebody has to read that.
right. So you had to learn how to be able to say a lot in a little bit, but you wanted for the meaning and for everything to be understood. So that was the easy, difficult part. But I just put it together. I just went from the heart. I said, if it's going to fly, it's going to fly. If not,
well, it flew.
You're right.
It flew.
But it was easy. So I followed the questions. I was just hoping that I make it to the next round, which I did. And then the in-person interview was a little pressure. It was a little pressure, but it was good to realize, because I think what was most intimidating was how many people came for the oral, made it to the second round. I'm like, wow, this is a lot of people in here. But when you're doing something that you feel is helpful, it'll be all right. And also another thing, I chose what I did, not because I wanted to help the youth. I wanted to do something that I felt nobody else in our area was doing. So
that was a smart move.
Right. I say, I don't want to do something everybody else doing. And I didn't know what everybody else was doing, but I say, I know they're not doing hydroponic farming.
Well, you were right.
Not
You
many
were
is doing it in
absolutely
this
right.
area.
Because I remember that we have a few folks from the community who are a part of our grant team. And I remember there were a few people who were just, what? We can do this locally, and we just want to meet them. We
Right.
really want to meet them. And that second round was the second round really wasn't planned the first time. I'm gonna be completely honest with you.
Right.
We did not expect over 120 applications. And so far, we've been the highest awardees of all the communities. So when I tell other communities that, have awarded between maybe 6 to 13, that we have 38,
Right.
that's huge,
Right.
and we're very grateful that we were able to do those type of numbers in our first 2 years, because it really gave us an opportunity to expand this work.
Right.
Because we can't, you can't do what you do by yourself.
No,
I can't do what I do by myself. So when community came together and said, Well, how about if we designate dollars for mini grants and folks who have ideas of projects that they can do in community related to behavioral health can win the money and do it themselves?
Right.
Absolutely.
I'm
It just
glad it worked. And then I had the idea, but I didn't have the place to do it, even though I know it could be done. So one thing I give kudos out to the city of Riviera Beach, especially the Youth Empowerment Center, because I went over there and talked to Miss Valerie Grimsley, and she, when I told her what I would like to do, she she was in.
but you had to pitch it.
Yeah, I had to pitch
Pitch
it,
it.
of
Yeah.
course, because she doesn't just go for anything,
Yeah.
because it's a reflection of what's going on over there. And she bought in, and I was thankful for that. And it takes a collaboration. Anything in community that's going to have a positive impact is not going to come from one person or one organization. It's going to be a collaborative of different people and organizations and initiatives going on. Those are the most successful, impactful type initiatives in the community. Well, it's partnerships somewhere.
Partnerships are really important, and I will say that when I look at applications and I see that folks have stretched to establish a partnership, especially in the community, that for me just seems that you went the extra mile to say, there's those who win it, and then they'll say, and it's no offense to them, will say in the end, oh, I won the money, but I don't have anyone to do this project with. And then sometimes they take a lot of time. You have a certain amount of time to use your money, and a lot of that time is spent trying to gain a connection. But what's really important is to establish that connection at the beginning so
Right.
that you can win and get running. And tell me a little bit about your just connection to Palm Beach County, connection to Riviera Beach. Your last name is not uncommon in this community. So tell me about your connection to Palm Beach County.
Well, long story short, I'm a Palm Beach County native. I grew up in Riviera Beach. I went to Lincoln Elementary. I went to John F. Kennedy Junior High, the old Kennedy. I graduated from Suncoast, the old Suncoast. So I went to elementary, junior high, and high school in Suncoast. A funny thing is, I have lived in other places outside of Palm Beach County in my lifetime, but in Palm Beach County, the only city I have ever lived in is Riviera Beach.
That's all you know.
That's the only community I done lived in when I'm living in Palm Beach.
Mm-hmm.
So Riviera, it's safe to say I love this place. Do we have a lot of things we can work on? I think every place does. But that's why I like being a part of making things better, helping us grow.
I appreciate that. And since your mini grant win, how have you been spending your time? What new ventures are you getting into?
Oh, a man that will wear many hats. So I stay busy. Well, let's say the first time I won the mini grant, and that was in 2019. So I was busy doing that. So in 2019, when I did the mini grant, you wouldn't believe it, but I was working full time, I was working part time, and I was going to school full time at night at the time we did that.
I remember you being enrolled in school.
And
yes.
the first time we did the mini grant. So it was like, at that time, I was just bogged down, just trying to work to make a check and graduate to get out of school.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time 2019, and at the same time, I was going out speaking to youth, speaking about reentry, because other things I do, and you may be familiar that I also do reentry, help men and women released from jail and prison get reintegrated. But then the pandemic hit.
Mm-hmm.
Voila. And that changed things. Me dealing with the youth, what I saw happen was the pandemic made everything go virtual. And then it was hard to get the youth out to do anything.
Yeah.
By the time 2020 came around, and I started to notice also that the COVID slide, and what the COVID slide is, how the kids have fell behind once they went to virtual.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be significant impact from that. We can't see it now, but 5 years from now, the youth who took it for a joke, their life is not going to be sympathetic and say, oh, it was a pandemic, so you fell behind 2 years worth of schooling. Life not going to look at it that way. So with the COVID slide, going through speaking about since the first mini grant, when I got to the second mini grant, I was really more concerned with saying, how could we leverage the COVID slide? But it wasn't much I can do then. But now I actually have a curriculum being made to go along with a youth mentoring project.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, the focus is on life skills, personal development, career development, and financial literacy. So I'm gonna have
Congratulations.
a real curriculum. And also the reason I'm getting a real curriculum because I want it not only to be practical to everyday living and skills they need to have, but also they get an education on a level that could meet educational standards at the same time.
Absolutely. And preparing them for other opportunities
Exactly.
is what they have to offer from you. So you speak about a lot of positive things that are going on. And sometimes it's easy for folks to look at you on a podcast or you with your mentoring services and just like, man, Oz got it all together,
Yeah.
like let me just be like him one day. Can you tell us about a time when you felt like, yep, I'm not going to do this anymore, this is it, I quit? But how did you adjust and keep going?
Or just like quit doing something
Yeah,
in my
but clearly,
lifetime.
yeah, we clearly you adjusted and
Eh,
and now you're succeeding. So tell us about that time where you almost quit and how you adjusted to keep going.
well, I guess I got to give a little bit of my background. So another reason I target the youth is because I'm I'm no stranger to the penal system. I went to prison one time, first and last, right?
Okay.
And I was young. I was 19 years old, so I understand how our thinking. I like to call it stinking thinking.
Mm,
When we think we got all the answers in 3/4 slick, into the courts get us, and it's a wrap. Some of us learn, some of us don't learn. So that's one reason I talk to the youth. I never had a point in my life where I just wanted to give up,
hmm.
right? Maybe that come from my upbringing. I never had a point in my life where I just wanted to give up, but there was always points in my life when I was trying to figure out how do I make this go forward the right way.
Okay.
And that's not easily answered all the time in life. We trying to figure it out. You want to do something good, but and what I learned is to do that, you got to start investing in yourself and you have to start investing in the right things for it to get better. So I never been to a point where I just wanted to quit or give up, but I have been in times where I didn't know where life was going to go and what I would share too. So when I was 19, I got in trouble. And at the age of 20, I was sentenced to life in prison. Not only life in prison, I was sentenced to life, and 15 years in prison. So that, yeah, your eyes got wide.
Because I'm sitting here, I'm sitting here knowing that there's a story
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you're here.
right,
So that's why my eyes are getting wide.
right.
Like,
So I was sentenced to life in prison at the age of 20. I won an appeal, and then the courts gave me 40 years and 15 years running consecutive, which was a 55-year sentence.
mm,
It sent me out to the Florida Department of Corrections. So at that time there, I still didn't want to give up. I felt that I would come out here and do good one day. But I just didn't know how or when. But every day that I was in there, I just was getting ready for these days right here. People say that, hey man, you make it look so easy. I say, hey, when I was going through things, I was planning for these days. So it was a process.
planning for the opportunity.
Planning for just hoping to get the opportunity, in which I knew it was going to come because I had a date. But it just was just preparing for this day. And that's what life about success. People, we have to prepare. We
Prepare
have
for the opportunity.
prepare because one thing, like right now today, I tell people, I say, look, a person could give you a chance, but you have to earn your stay. And what happened is when a person give us that chance, sometime we can't earn our stay because we wasn't prepared for that moment once we
Mm,
get that blessing right then. Also, we're looking for opportunity, but opportunity be in front of us, but because we're never preparing for anything, opportunity passing us because we don't even realize it's an opportunity.
that's something.
Right.
That's something. And I think, you know, people don't see that behind the scenes preparation
Well,
that you
yeah.
do, right? So it just looks like you just always have it together, but it's that behind the scenes when you said that you invested in yourself.
Right.
So for entrepreneurs, for folks that are listening to this that, may be getting released one day, how can they, because reentry is also a priority of Healthier Neighbors,
Right.
right? And we understand that there are certain institutions that have great opportunities for you to prepare for release, and there are others where you have to kind of make your opportunity to prepare yourself for release. So, what are some ways that folks can prepare themselves pre release, but also in your current role as the executive director, how do you invest in yourself in this space?
Okay, so now talking to the population, I always like to be a voice for those who are voiceless. And I like to call that the community that may be incarcerated right now. We have to remember 85% of people that's locked up will return to society.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking that we could just exclude them, it's no way, because 85% of them is going to walk back amongst us again at some point. And I say about this, the prison system doesn't have much education in them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be honest. But it does have some. So we have to take advantage of that. But I think what's the hard part about going to get even a trade, if a person doesn't know how they're going to use something, they don't want to go get it.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that what a person has, but it's two type of people in prison. Those who are doing time and those who are using time. Those who are doing time worried about the TV, the rec field, the chow hall, and somebody sending me canteen money. But those who are using time are trying to figure out the way that they're going to be that next entrepreneur. How am I going to be able to get that great job? How am I going to be able to help my family? How am I going to be able to take care of my kids? So when you have that type of motivation, you will start to figure some things out. And I tell people, even self-education, if you do take to the books and become self-educated, it still would know that you have did some studying in your lifetime.
Something.
All of it works out.
That's some people are doing time and some people are
using time. Right.
Wow.
And
that can be transferred to life, huh? Because
that's life.
Yeah.
Some are just taking up space on earth right now. And I used to write very cocky letters from behind the wall. And I used to tell people that the leaders of tomorrow won't be coming out of colleges and universities. They'll be coming out of jail and prison.
Wow.
And the reason I used to say that, because I used to see the guys who was walking with books under both of their arms around the compound, like just studying. You would think they was in college, but in a sense, we used to say we in college, we in the university, because once we leave out of here, it's over with this. But we're going to leave out with that education. And that's what we did. And believe it or not, it's about 14 guys I could point to right now that are successful, got corporate jobs, government jobs, entrepreneurs, and they giving back in the communities
and you
everywhere.
all were studying together.
And we all were studying together.
That's a great support system.
Right.
That is a great support system.
And people actually that know all of us, they say that's amazing because they have never seen that type of network come from that circumstance to out here still connected, but everybody's doing well.
Do we have any of those assets in Palm Beach County? Of those 14, just can we got another one? Maybe no, Florida.
Oh yes, actually you do. Right.
Okay,
because actually Rashad Wiggins, he helped me out on the second mini grant when we built the tank and everything.
Really?
Because we had went through how I learned about hydroponic farming. It came to me because when we was at Sago Palm, what happened was
Sago Palm is
Reentry Center over in Pahokee, Florida.
Okay.
And the University of Florida was coming in doing trainings, and they had a farming for profit training. So they taught us everything about farming, but then they came and did a hydroponic farming right there at the facility, and we built it all the way from scratch. Yeah, we built.
So you learned about hydroponic farming at Sago Palm Prison, Reentry Prison.
Right.
And then you came out and won a mini grant.
Right, twice.
You're a bad brother, Oz.
And twice.
You really are.
And then the second time around, I brought in a brother that knew about it too, to show him that, hey, we can do this in our community. So not only was for the youth, it was to get him. And when he came with his bag, he had this tool bag with hammers and drill in there. I was like, I got to go build my tool bag now.
He put you to shame.
Yeah,
huh?
He put me to shame out there.
I can't do that. It sounds like your days are very busy.
Very.
So describe to us what a busy day is, and then when it's an Oz day, it's a relaxed, chill day. How do you take care of yourself on your chill
The chill
days?
day is easy to say because I sleep.
Okay.
That's a chill day. That's because I'm pretty much, my head hits the pillow roughly 1:30-ish every night.
A.M.?
A.M.
Okay.
And get up about 5:45-ish. So I'll be on the computer, plot planning and strategizing, just trying to find a way to get out the struggle and get that bag. That's what a
So that's a full busy day for you.
full busy day. I work. So by day, I'm a reentry case manager. Again, I help men and women released from jail and prison reintegrate. So I do that. I'm passionate about that. Just want
Clearly.
everybody to get a chance. But after that, that's when I do my own thing. Not only I have a nonprofit, but I have my own business where I do consulting and reentry with reentry and business. My degree is in organizational leadership.
Okay. So I know you said you were working on the degree.
Yeah, I've
You
graduated.
graduate. Okay, because I know you said you were in school. We
In
went through a
2019. Well, since 2019, I graduated. I actually graduated. I
Congratulations.
graduated magna cum laude when I
Okay.
graduated. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I
man,
did.
you are just dusting everything off.
No, I
Okay.
don't know. I'm just trying to get in where I fit in.
You can be humble. That's okay.
Right.
I'll give you your flowers.
It's good, but I think because of my life experience, it was different. So in my class, when I was in college, I saw things from a different way, but my class actually used to love when I spoke in there because I always gave us a different chain of thought to think about. I say, listen, 300 million people in America right now. Everybody not going to look at it the way we look at it. So let's think about this. And I just throw something out there, and it just always
Giving people different perspectives.
spin doctor. I never just go with what's status quo, because long as we follow that scenario and it comes along like that, we'll know what to do. But soon as a variable come up and it doesn't be exactly like that, the way we always seen it, we stuck. That's because we never open our mind beyond just being robotic. I never want for us to be robotic in life.
It makes me think that that's why when you spoke earlier, you said that you never thought about giving up. Because for you, it just looks like, okay, this is a challenge. How do
Yeah.
I get over, across, through this challenge?
Exactly. Right.
That's amazing. It's a mentality that takes a while to build. It's definitely not something that's overnight. But you also talk about things that you've learned over the years in your maturity and just becoming wiser. And not everyone translates those experience to wisdom.
Right. Well, the things I do out here now, I actually did it in prison. I became a mentor in prison, like talking to guys, just trying to get them to leave gang life alone. They might have been in prison 2 or 3 times. I'm like, hey, you got a beautiful daughter. You got a 16-year-old, 11-year-old, and a 7-year-old. Go home to your families. Be out there with them. So I actually invested in other people a lot behind the walls. But how about I didn't see my gift? Sometimes it takes other people to point out the gift you have.
Wow.
Because I'm an introverted. I'm introverted.
I feel you. I know that.
I'm an introvert. But people always say, hey, you good with people. And I'm like, no, man, I like to be by myself. They like, yeah, but you still good with people. And I'm like, no, what make you say that? They be like, oh, man, that joke over there foolish, but he'll listen to you. So you got something that everybody else don't. I'm like, no. But what happened over time when multiple people who didn't know each other told me the same thing, I had to think about, what do they see that I don't see?
Yeah.
And I think I just took time to like give people just a different way of looking at scenarios.
That's it's really strong of you to take that, because sometimes we talk about constructive criticism, but
Right.
there's also those constructive compliments. That
Right.
sometimes we just see it as like in the beginning when I'm like, okay, you could be humble. I'll toot you on. Like, you understand that you're good at something. You understand your worth. You understand your value. But sometimes it's hard to, say that about yourself. But if someone keeps telling you you're good at this, you're good at this, you're really good at this. And I also see that with introverts. I'm also an introvert.
Right.
Is when you're passionate about something, it's like you forget that you're an introvert, because it's like, wait a minute,
You could go
we're talking-
forever
Yeah, it's
on
like
it.
we're talking
Yeah.
about this. Like, this makes me excited. I love talking about this. So you'll get home like, I talked like all night. That's so
Yeah.
weird. But then we need like 2 days to recoup. Like, I don't want to see nobody.
Right. I understand. I get it. But yeah.
It's a process. But I thank you for your contributions to community. I thank you especially for being vocal about your past, being vocal about the lessons you've learned, and continuing to share that with community. What does community have, as we're closing out, what does the community have to look forward to from you? What are you working on right now?
What I would like to do is I would like to find a space where I could be with the youth consistently. And that's been the hard part for me. So if someone could help me out with that, I would appreciate it. Also, just look for me in different little pockets wherever. And Dan Calloway said the best. We looking out for the least, the lost, and the left out. So you'll find me in one of them pockets somewhere, and just doing whatever I can. For me, you're going to see me out on the circuit, more strong with the youth now that we're coming out of the pandemic. Even though we're in the pandemic, we out of the pandemic now because people are moving and grooving. They packed in places, so we need to really just get back to life. And that's all I'm gonna just be doing. I mean, I'm just having to compartmentalize a lot and sort it out because sometimes people are just they're looking for you to do so much and you can't do it all. I'm having to learn how to say no to certain things, even in my heart when I want to do it, but I'm just packed right now.
Okay. And if folks want to find you because they have space or they're interested in learning more about your program, how can they find you?
Okay, well, it's two things. The easy way to find me is www.oswaldnewbold.com. That's OSWALD NEWBOLD.com. And I speak about everything that I'm doing, all the way from nonprofit to consulting to everything. Everything I got my hands in, you kind of could get a feel of it. I'm able to be reached through there. Also, I have Libra-Life which they could find out more about Libra-Life and also be able to reach me.
Okay, thank you for that. So my final question that I ask guests, right, and I take this from a friend of mine who always says when he wants to get something out, he says, I feel like I'm screaming in a bubble. Nobody hears what I'm saying, and more people need to hear this. So I'm asking you, what are you screaming? What do you want people to hear? What do you think people should be hearing more of?
Wow, that's one of them little big questions right there. Because I'm not really screaming anything. I think my voice is heard, and the things that probably that is hard to move is systemic. So it's just going to take more work and more than my voice to do it. I just believe that as a whole, as people, I believe that's why I'm focusing on personal development also with the youth. And I always invest in adults the same way. If we as individuals start to become better people, we in turn will be better family members and build better communities. I think it starts with and you mentioned it earlier about being in tune with self. So one of the things I can say I'm screaming is for people to get in tune with themselves, understand where you're strong, understand where you're weak, and no one is perfect. So if you have weaknesses, if you have flaws, it's no problem. We all do. But then once I recognize it, how do I work on it? And just work on them one at a time. And as we start to grow and become better, it actually starts to put a better positive energy out, and we grow and help others grow.
Thank you for that. I will end with your scream. And thank you for joining us, neighbors. You can also find Healthier Neighbors at healthierneighbors.com. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, which our tag is Healthier Neighbors. And please stay tuned for the Healthier Neighbors mini grant release. Thanks for joining us. Okay.